Hello, everyone. Let's have more news about the Warriors. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. The Golden State Warriors know they need to add a center this offseason. Steve Kerr said it, and Draymond Green did too. They have been linked to Nikola Vucevic but held off on a trade for him before the deadline. Another big that the Warriors know well also drew pre-deadline interest from several teams, and he'll be an unrestricted free agent this summer. Golden State signed Chris Boucher after he went undrafted in 2017. He appeared in one game for the Warriors in their 2017-18 season. Boucher became a free agent that offseason, signing with the Raptors, playing 28 games in Toronto's championship season. Boucher established himself with the Raptors, which was fitting given that he moved to Canada as a young child. He went from fighting to prove himself to becoming a key part of the organization and is the only remaining player on the roster from the 2019 title squad. The 32-year-old played some of the best basketball of his career this past season, averaging 10 points and 4.5 rebounds per game, shooting 49.2% from the field and 36.3% from three-point range. Toronto opted not to trade Boucher before the deadline. There was speculation that the Raptors would buy out his contract, but that didn't happen. He'll hit free agency in a few weeks and could leave Toronto after 7 seasons. The Raptors underwent a mini rebuild period the past couple of years, but shocked everyone by trading for Brandon Ingram before the deadline. While Toronto could return to the playoffs in 2026 for the first time in 4 years, several contending teams could use a player like Boucher. It would be a full circle moment for Boucher to return to the Bay and help Golden State win another championship. Now let's go to another video. Don't forget to leave a like.
So here's the quote for you folks. I want to be an all-star as soon as I can be. I love that. JK said the same type of thing. These NBA players have always been the best of the best of the best wherever they've gone. And I expect them to still have that mindset. I want to be at the top. If I had an NBA player on my team saying I don't want to be an all-star, I'd want somebody different. You're not working hard enough. But this is key. Whether it's with Steph or without Steph, I want to be an all-star. So that's ambition to do it now. To be an all-star, you can't be second fiddle. Maybe you're the second option on the team like Splash Brothers. I mean, Steph, Dre, and Clay all made it. But Steph, Brandon kind of play the same position. Point guard, off-ball shooting guard, depending on the rotation. So that's tough. But if Brandon Pajemski can be an all-star, this is so good for this team. It takes pressure off of Jimmy, pressure off of Dre, pressure off of Steph. I want to be an Olympian in 2028. I have my sights on. So again, with the 2024 team, he prepared them. And Steve Kerr is the head coach. Rave reviews. Steph Curry, rave reviews. Everyone said he had a great ODP, which is why I was so bullish on his sophomore season, and it didn't turn out the way that we hoped. Now he's got 3 more seasons to get there to be an Olympian. And if he can make that jump, that means he's probably an all-star for 2 years. But also, folks, like, you got Brunson, you got Halliburton, you got Tatum, who said Steph doesn't want to play again with it being in LA. Good luck making that team. Even if he's playing all-star level, like, there's, oh my God. Like Kyrie Irving maybe wants, no, I think Kyrie's going to Australia, excuse me. There's just so many point guards who have the opportunity to make it. De'Aaron Fox, just naming more and more. Like, that will be incredible if he can make the Olympian team. But I like the mindset. I want to be a household name somewhere where it can be me and a bunch of other guys winning a championship. That's kind of ideal for me. If you're going to watch the full video, it's right here. It's pretty insightful. It doesn't show a lot of emotion, but you know, they talked about Dre and Steph, like learning from him, the championship run, the playoff run, life, etc., etc. So the question is, like, you know, they drafted James Wiseman, didn't work out. Then they got Moody, they got BP, they got Kuminga. What are we going to do with Kuminga? We don't know yet. Now with BP, again, he's going into his 3rd year, so he's locked in. Brandon Pajemski, 25-26 year, row 11, $3.6 million. Then he's going to his 4th year, which is his team option. I feel like they're going to pick it up unless he has a crazy bad season. $5.6 million. And then bird rights. So the question is, folks, like, I know I put out videos for Kat, Giannis, you're like, trade BP, $3 million when your matching salary doesn't do ish. That's why it's got to be like a Healed, a Moody, those bigger chunk salaries. You look at Brandon this season, He played less games because he had that injury, but he still was overall better. His efficiency was a bit down, and that's because of what happened beginning of the season. You remember, he had no confidence. He was missing shots, was going 0 for 5 from 3. But once he came back in the back half of the season from his injury, he was much better, fell in the playoffs a bit. His field goal percentage, right where his rookie year was, obviously that means no sophomore slump. He started with a slump, but then he increased it. 3-point percentage, a tad bit lower. Points was up about 3 points a game, which is nice. Rebounding's down a bit. Assist down. So everything was maybe a tiny bit down besides points. However, he did increase his free throw percentage, which was much needed for a shooter like him. And secondly, if you actually look at the amount was very similar in terms of the number of field goals he took. When you look at the threes, he shot much more threes. The hope would go up, not the craziest. It went down though. But what really was disappointing was, let me pull it up for you. These games against the Wolves. He had a great closeout game, 28 points. But 11-5, 11-3, especially after game one. What happened game one? Steph is hurt. You got 3 points after he got hurt, and then you need someone to step up and score. JK really helped out. Jimmy did some stuff. But BP, backup point guard, fulfilling that role. Yes, they're going to lock you down with a top defender now. Did not show he can overcome it, besides for the last game, where 4 or 6 from 3, which was a nice day for him. Look at the Rockets series. Again, he had one good game, 26 points, double digits in 3 other games. But really, what is happening right now? You look at Pacers, Siakam, Halliburton, balling. Turner, scoring. That gives you 3 people scoring. Nehart is doing really good. You look at OKC, Chet, SGA, of course, MVP, Williams. They have so many players who are scoring for them. Warriors, we didn't really have that. And BP needed to step into that role, and unfortunately he didn't. But again, he struggled. And Steve Kerr acknowledged that in his extra interviews with BP. He said, when we get back here next year, again, love the confidence per Steve Kerr, you're not going to turn down a single shot. That's part of the playoffs. I lived as a player. It's a mind game. It's really easy to lose your confidence. And again, Warriors didn't make the playoffs 2 years ago. They lost in the play-in. So this was a learning lesson for him, Trace Jackson Davis, other players. You had a bad game. Everybody's talking about your shooting percentages. You feel like you're on an island. I've been there. It's great for Brandon to go through that and finish the series with a great game. He's got to understand this and what it feels like. So here in Nebraska, Coach Ravel, Nebraska head coach for softball, she has a saying, you can only experience experience. There's no other way to get it. Experience. I love that. And Brandon got the experience what it was like to play in 2 playoff series, which will only help him moving forward. Butler is here. Green is here. Is Kuminga going to be here? We don't know. Moody's here. Brandon, expect him to take a jump in year 3. I really do think so.
All right. According to Bobby Marks, like we talked about on yesterday's show, Kuminga, quote-unquote, controls the offseason for Golden State. That's not new information. We knew that he was going to be the biggest domino to fall. If Golden State ends up signing him to a long-term extension, well, then they don't really have much financial flexibility to make other improvements around the roster. If they were to sign and trade him elsewhere, well, they can recoup some assets and then even potentially have more financial flexibility as they have to take back less money than Kuminga's a contract is with the new team. So where do we stand right now as far as the Warriors' brain trust and where everybody wants Kuminga to be? Well, we know that Joe Lacob is in love with Jonathan Kuminga, and if he had the choice, Kuminga would be a max contract player playing in the Golden State Warriors jersey forever. But I think that there are some people, smart basketball people in the Warriors front office that probably will not let that happen. Steve Kerr, I mean, look, he hasn't outright said, I want Jonathan Kuminga off my basketball team, but every way that Kerr has acted as a coach, and even some of the comments that he's made after the season's been over, have all signaled that he doesn't believe Jonathan Kuminga to be a fit on this Warriors roster. And Mike Dunleavy, I would say he has no allegiances. He's made some comments about wanting Kuminga back, but those were comments that you have to make in your exit interview. You're not going to say we're getting rid of this player, not only because that sends bad vibes to your clubhouse, but it also sends a message to the NBA that you don't value that player very highly. So he's had to say that they want to bring Kuminga back, but he was the one who went out there and executively made that Jimmy Butler trade happen. Like, I don't think he's going to be listening to Joe Lacob's, Kuminga love story this summer as a reason for him to come back. He's going to make the decisions that are going to best benefit this Golden State Warriors roster, and I hope that Kuminga, or not Kuminga, but Mike Dunleavy has that decision-making power once again for roster building for next season. This quote from Tim Kawakami to kind of go back to the Steve Kerr aspect of things. He said on the most recent episode of the Warriors Plus Minus podcast that the head coach does not believe that this is how you get better by having Jonathan Kuminga back on the team. I think we could say that. He, as in Kerr, has not yet said those words, but I do not believe they can say playing 28 minutes even of Jonathan Kuminga makes them better. I think the head coach might think that makes them worse. And I honestly believe what Tim Kawakami is saying here. Remember the comments from Kerr a couple of weeks ago where he said he can't play Kuminga 35 minutes a night next to Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond? Well, he probably was thinking in his head, I probably can't even play him 25 minutes a night. And there's Tim Kawakami relaying the message. And obviously, per multiple reports, the Warriors aren't dead set on bringing Kuminga back. Now, there are some financial restrictions that might make it more likely that he returns to Golden State next year. But according to The Athletic and many other reports this offseason, the Warriors are set to explore Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade scenarios. And not only the franchise should be wanting to do that, but Kuminga himself should want a fresh start elsewhere. As a 22-year-old with untapped potential, he's going to be seeing a little bit of money, and he'll probably see a bigger role and an opportunity to get a bigger contract next time around if he is with a new team. And Kawakami said on a potential Kuminga sign and trade, he says, quote, likely there is somebody that can do this, that they can do this for. So when you survey the league, like, you got to look at who's making around, maybe $10 to $15 million. Because whatever the player that Golden State gets back in this deal, you have to double their salary, and that's what Kuminga will be making on his next contract. So there are a select few of players in this league that will make this trade work, and there are going to be limitations to it. But Tim Kawakami believes that there is likely a team that will be able to make a deal happen. Brian Getzlinger of the SiriusXM NBA Radio had this to say about the whole Kuminga situation. I thought it was interesting. And he said the Warriors need to be careful and not sign Kuminga to too cheap a deal. Letting him go find a deal might be the right move to facilitate a sign and trade because the Warriors are under the first apron. And I'm curious as to where he was coming from with this whole quote, because I don't think the Warriors are going to sign him to any deal off the rip, early on in free agency. They're going to field the calls. They're going to see what the interest is around the league on JK and then make a decision thereafter based on that. Now, if they do re-sign Kuminga long-term, he will be trade eligible once again in December, but I've made the point on the show before that I don't want that to happen. I don't want there to be trade rumors rumbling around in December. I'd like the team that steps out there on day one in October to be very, 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 very similar to the team that steps out there in the postseason. More from the SiriusXM radio host here. He said, for the Warriors to bring in the player they want, it can't be Kuminga for $14 million a year. My estimation is it will land anywhere between $22 and $30 million. I wouldn't balk at $25 million. Kuminga has value out there. If I'm the Utah Jazz, the Washington Wizards, he's worth a conversation. Obviously, those are two teams that really don't have a ton of, designated on-ball creation for the future here. So with them having a lot of young talent, underdeveloped around the roster as well, that could be a good landing spot for Kuminga. But overall, the message that we should take away from this whole quote here is the player that you get might not be as good as Jonathan Kuminga and likely will not be able to put up the numbers that Jonathan Kuminga has in his Warriors tenure so far. Are the Warriors banking on getting a guaranteed 16-plus point per game scorer, a player who can defend multiple positions on the wing? I'm not saying he's great at it, but he can do it. There's a great chance that that player isn't as overall impactful, but maybe him fitting in the system a little bit better will make him an overall net positive rather than what Kuminga will bring in the future for Golden State. But I don't know. We all don't know what the value of Kuminga in a sign and trade will be at this point. Plus, there's only a certain number of players making around the salary that makes a trade possible. So, out of the players that do make it possible, name a player you'd want back in a Kuminga sign and trade. Let me know who that guy is down in the comments section, and we'll go through some potential sign and trade ideas for Kuminga in just a moment, as well as a potential trade partner for Golden State, being the Chicago Bulls. They have a lot of players who I'm pretty interested in, I'm not going to lie. Talk about that in just a moment, but first, I got to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform because it's daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. All you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less, whether it's basketball, hockey, both have the finals running rampant right now, or baseball, or even like bowling, darts, esports, or golf. Like, they have everything on Prize Picks. You can mix and match these different sports and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks always wants to make it easier for you guys to win real money watching your favorite sports as well, when they offer deals like Taco Tuesday, where they discount player stat projections each week, or Flex Friday, where if you lose your flex lineup every Friday, they give it back to you in promo funds up to $20. For the basketball finals that are ahead, starting on Thursday, Game 1, I got SGA to have more than 33.5 points. I got Isaiah Hartenstein more than 7 rebounds. And I got Tyrese Halliburton more than 9 assists. This would 5x my money. But again, you can up to 2,000 times your money on Prize Picks. So download the app today and use our promo code CLNS, like you see in the bottom right of your screen, for a free $50 when you place your first $5 entry. You don't even need to win that entry to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. So download the app, use the promo code CLNS for $50 instantly when you place your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All that information will be clickable in the comment section and description of today's show. All right, could the Warriors be set on a collision course for a trade with the Chicago Bulls? It looks like the Bulls are kind of open for business in the sense that they don't really have a ton of long-term allegiance to a lot of the players, especially a lot of the players making decent money on their roster. Matt Moore, a.k.a. Hardwood Paroxysm, over at the Action Network, had this kind of bombshell about the Chicago Bulls here this offseason. He said, "This is outside speculative, but 2 Eastern Conference personnel figures believe that the Bulls are unlikely to retain both Josh Giddey and Kobe White. If Giddey gets locked in, White could be moved. I'm skeptical of that because that sounds like a radical concept for the Bulls, and that doesn't sound like them. Saving money sounds like them, but not like this." Yeah, I will say, like, the Bulls, they're not known for the front office decision making. Like, they have not been the best run organization clearly over the past decade or so. So, like, this could be a team that, even Mike Dunleavy, who is still a pretty young and inexperienced general manager at this point, could probably swindle them into a deal where the Warriors win the trade. And who could that player be? Like Matt Moore just mentioned, like, the Bulls don't see Kobe White, I would assume, as a long-term building block for the future. He's a ball-dominant player. Josh Giddey, also a ball-dominant player. So those two aren't too likely to coexist long-term in Chicago. And it seems at this point, Giddey is the guy that they're more likely to target as a re-signing. Obviously, Kobe White still has 1 more year left on his deal, about $12.5 million. He's 25 years old. Like, I think he's a player who could be in Golden State long-term. And he's an instant offense, a microwave type of scorer, and a guy who can go get it off of the bounce. And that's something that Golden State truly, truly lacked this past season, especially in the postseason, especially when Steph went down. If Golden State had Kobe White on their roster in the Minnesota Timberwolves series, look, I'm not saying that they win another game, but a lot of those decisions were really decisive in favor of the Timberwolves. I think those games would have been a lot closer had you had Kobe White and his ability to hit jump shots from long range, hit jump shots, in isolation when the shot clock's running down. Like, a lot of Warriors possessions end up that way, and if you give the grenade, like, not to Buddy Hield and to Kobe White instead, I think you're going to get a better look potentially. Now, what could a trade with Golden State and Chicago look like for Kobe White? Well, I don't think it necessarily has to include Jonathan Kuminga. Now, there is some reported interest with JK and the Bulls, but could the Warriors get it done for just this package? Moses Moody and a 2027 first-round pick. That would be the final year of Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler's and Draymond Green's contracts. So, obviously, Golden State would likely be a playoff team. You'd hope at that point. Granted, they're all healthy, but that pick could end up being pretty valuable if that's not the case. Warriors get Kobe White in exchange for Moses Moody and a 2027 top 8 protected pick. Look, I don't really know who says no in this trade. Golden State could be hesitant about giving away the future draft asset for a player that's not guaranteed to be with them long term. And then on the other hand, Chicago could be in a situation where they're like, well, Kobe White's a lot better than Moses Moody at this point. We don't think that draft pick 2 years down the line is worth making this deal for. But again, at the same time, Kobe White not going to be re-signed or extended if the Bulls bring back Josh Giddey this summer. So could that be a scenario where this trade makes sense? I think it could. I think both teams could say yes to this deal, but I do think that Chicago would be more inclined to take the following deal from Golden State, and that's just straight up getting Kuminga for Kobe White, a deal that we've talked about on this show before. Look, I'd be down. Like, if you ask me, Jonathan Kuminga sign and trades, it's a bit of addition by subtraction. If you could just get a player that semi-fits in this Warriors rotation and in this offensive system, then I think it's a total win, and you're not paying Kuminga $25 million. And guess what? If Kobe White doesn't work, you'll have more financial flexibility in 2026 to get something done if that's not an extension that you're looking to make. So those are the ways that Golden State could get Kobe White. I think Chicago would be fairly interested in making both of these deals, but time will tell as to whether or not anything will materialize. Could the Warriors try to trade for another player on Chicago, though? As we know that the Bulls are looking to trade Nikola Vucevic this offseason, and Golden State had reported interest back at the trade deadline. Could that resurface again this year with Vooch on a one-year, $21 million expiring contract? I think it's completely plausible, and he's a player who I've long mocked as a solid enough fit in Golden State. And a trade for Vooch could look something like this. And look, I know it's not going to be the most glamorous deal because you have to give away Jonathan Kuminga, and you're not getting a player as good as Kobe White back in the deal. However, you're getting a 20 and 10 center. He's not the best defender, but he's going to fit in a Golden State system where he is an underrated playmaker and an underrated passer with the ball in his hands, can work out of multiple spots on the basketball court, and I think he will provide more ups than downs if he was to be coming to Golden State. Plus, you get Ayo Dosunmu, who is a really solid off of the bench guard who can defend, he can shoot the basketball, he can kind of attack the rim as well as a slasher. And then you get rid of Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. You don't see this Moody contract extension ever see the light of day. But at the end of the day, I think Golden State gets better with this trade. And to be honest with you, I think they get better with all of the trades that we've discussed on today's show with Chicago. I think both teams kind of see some positives with making and exchanging all the players that we've talked about so far. Like the Bulls could use a player like Jonathan Kuminga who can kind of slide into the role that DeMar DeRozan played a couple of seasons ago. Golden State could use an isolation scorer at the guard position like Kobe White so Steph can run off of the ball a little bit more. And Golden State has another player on the perimeter that opposing defenses have to guard. And then if they wanted to go out there and trade for Vucevic, they definitely need a big as well. And we know Vuce can clean the glass, space the floor, and be able to facilitate at multiple spots on the court. So I think Golden State gets better out of all these trades. I also think that Chicago gets a good bit better and sees some promise in their future by acquiring Kuminga potentially as well. So out of all the trades we've talked about on today's show,
Golden State Warriors are running out of time for one more championship in the Stephen Curry era. A pivotal offseason will decide just how close they are to that goal for the 2025-26 season. The easy approach to going all in on this window to win a title would be utilizing the trade market this summer to land another addition that upgrades this core. A reunion with Kevin Durant comes to mind. Durant averaged 26.6 points, 6.0 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 1.2 blocks, and 0.8 steals per game while shooting 53, 43, 84 this past campaign. The Phoenix Suns superstar is all but guaranteed to be on the move too. However, a new report revealed an issue with how the Warriors could fit into the Durant sweepstakes. Golden State is lacking in a key department that the Suns will be looking for. Matt Moore wrote, "The Suns have indicated to teams that center is at a premium for them in any KD talks. He might stick around, but their biggest interest is in solving the center position, which has been a disaster since moving on from DeAndre Ayton. The Warriors are not in a position to help fix that area of need for the Suns. Golden State has significant questions around their own front court ahead of the 2025 offseason. Trace Jackson-Davis and Quinton Post are the only options at center that the Warriors have pinned down for the 2025-26 season. That is assuming the team option on Post gets picked up. Neither of those players screams headliner in a potential trade for Durant. Perhaps Draymond Green somewhat answers the call as a small ball option at the 5. However, the advanced age of the Warriors star offers its own issues for the Suns. The only real way the Warriors may have a chance here, if the rumors are true, is a multi-team trade involving other trade partners. Apart from that, the dream of bringing Durant back to the Bay Area appears to be a long shot. And you, fan, what do you think about Kevin Durant's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.